Yes. It was quite chaotic because I think we're two different continents.
It is. It is. I know how it goes. So the company, it looks like should be pronounced Kredete, and I've seen on some of your videos that it's definitely Kredete.
Credit, yes.
So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and tell us, what is Kredete all about? What do you do?
So I typically came from TradFi, right? So I worked at JP Morgan for a while, and my background stems around giving access to credit to emerging markets, so Latin America, Asia, and Africa. And I realized that Africans were the least in terms of approvals because they didn't have a credit history. When it comes to the US, they started from near zero. And I always remember my own personal experience when I moved many decades ago. I applied for a small credit card with a small credit card company, and I got rejected 17 times, right? So every single time I was applying, the odds of actually getting the credit was lower. So that was one of the defining moments. And I worked at the JP Morgan, right? TradFi, that gave me an idea as regards to the why, then I just had to figure it out. So that was my background around pin rails, credit history, underlying infrastructure, and also immigrants as well, which I am also a first generation African immigrant. So that's pretty much my background.
So where did you immigrate from, and how did you overcome that? 17 denials is a lot. And, I think we often take for granted having a credit history, not showing up on the shores with nothing. How did you overcome that? And how did you get to work at JP Morgan?
One of the things that I realized, was in the US, your credit score is not impacted based on the amount you pay, but based on the frequency of your on-time payments, right? So that accounts for about 35%. So we realized that if you could build credits, if you could build credit via paying your American Express on time, then everyone should have a perfect score. So it's two things: either the banks or the credit card companies do not report as frequent as possible, or you don't have that much access. So for us, the idea was find something for African immigrants that is very frequent and build an infrastructure around it. And what other thing than cross-border payments, remittances, right? So we call it the black tax. It's something you do once or twice, sometimes 5 times a month, right? Because for every African immigrant in the US or the West, there are 5 more family members back home. So that was the infrastructure lining that we understood. And we said, if we are to do something different, we have to use blockchain, right? We have to make stablecoins as an underlying part of our infrastructure to reduce the cost and then put back the billions of fees back into the people's hands in Africa.
It sounds like this has to be built on Web3, on blockchain, just because, with Swift, it eats things away in fees.
Yeah.
If you're sending a couple $100 back home, you can't afford to have 10% of that go away in fees.
Absolutely.
So was this simply not something that could be done prior to Web3?
Let's also understand that many of the huge banks serve as correspondent banks for banks in Africa, right? So I think that's the first level of conversation. It's been happening for many years. If the African banks do not get access to the dollars, then they are unable to terminate the last mile delivery. And we were in Brazil last 2 weeks, and one of the things we talked about was stablecoin is great, but the biggest pain point today with stablecoin is local liquidity. Like, who provides the local liquidity from a payout perspective? And that's pretty much our job, right? So we serve as the middleman between the users, the banks, and also the correspondent banks by using stablecoin infrastructure. So that is the whole ethos, right? So, and I always like to say, right, so for big merchants and for big suppliers and vendors, it's more acceptable if you're sending $20 million to $100 million, you do not mind the $30 fees, right? Or you might be patient enough to get the weight. But if you are a grandmother in Lusaka or in Lagos or Cairo, you need your payments ASAP. And that is the benefit of stables here.
What does the customer journey look like, or what does the journey look like on credit? Somebody lands in America, let's say, they've got nothing, no bank account. how do they get onboarded, and what's the process look like, and what does this enable? I guess, you're helping them build up a credit score so they can begin to access financial services. What's that journey look like for them?
So we are in the phase of activating our flywheel, just like at Amazon. So 3 years ago, our ethos was to reduce the fees on the payments, right? We wanted to ensure that if you're sending $200 back home, your parent or your children are not getting like 180 or 170. That was the first step for us to reduce fees and make it instant. The second step was to build credit history around that payment. So you move to the US, you find a Western Union or MoneyGram, right? That was what you were used to. But now you at the comfort of your home, you can download the app, and then process the payments, right? And ensure that the fees are very minimal and your family members are getting the payments. The third step was to build credit history around that payment. So every single time a customer was send money back home, we were reporting to the agencies as an on-time payment. So that was the stickiness, right? So we saw from a 40% to 85 upward north stickiness on the platform at the point when we saw customers actively now looking to send payments as frequent as possible to build a credit history in the US. So once they improved the credit score, the third step for us was to begin to partner with local lenders in the US to offer various lending options, personal loans, debt reliefs, credit cards, things like that. So that's why it just keeps going. So when you land into the US, you do not have a bank account. You do not need to queue in and then do not need to wait for a bank account. With the app, once you land at JFK, in Atlanta or Washington, D.C., you download the app, you get access to literally a U.S. bank account with an AI and a social security number, and then you get a credit card backed by stable coins. And that already cements you to the financial ecosystem of the U.S. And from there, you begin to send money. And that's how we kind of build our customer journey.
Who is this for? Is it primarily for immigrants from Africa? Can people from Central America use it? Is there any limitations, or who's your target client right now?
Obviously, our product can be used by any immigrants, right? So the main reason why we are very focused on Africa is because Africa is very large. 1.4 billion people, over 30% of the continents are under 15. So it's a really young economy.
It's a big addressable market.
Exactly, right. So it's a large market for us. It's 54 countries with 54 different regulations, right? Over 40 currencies. So we've not even scratched the surface by getting access to that market. So we want to cement ourselves by getting to the US, Canada, UK, Europe, and other Western, countries before we begin to open up to other immigrants like the Latin American populations. But because we know that every immigrant needs our product, or we are very concentrated on the African immigrants globally in the West and being that bridge between Africans back home and also Africans in the West.
So a two-part question. Number one, where are you all at today? Where's the phase of the business, the launch? Number two, do you have a token? Is there a Web3 flywheel type of thing?
Yeah, so it's very simple for us. First, we just raised a $22 million Series A round.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And the biggest aspect around our fundraise was to be the largest, African company that bridges all worlds, right? So we are currently in 40 African countries. We want to cover 54. And we want to expand into other jurisdictions.
You said 15 right now?
We're currently at 40. We want to expand to 54. So today we're the largest stablecoin infrastructure company, where we have over 1,500 banks directly integrated to. We have over 500 million wallets. We have over 450 MNOs that we're integrated with today. So we're very deeply penetrating the African ecosystem. We are at the phase of ensuring that payments are still reduced, right, and getting more access before we launch the token. I think it's very important for us because many of our customers do not understand what a wallet is, right? And even with our app today, we've abstracted 100% stablecoin because the brand loyalty and trust of the US dollars has been for many years. If that would drop my cohort analysis, if a customer sees something they're not used to, they then delete the app, right? So I think before we get into tokens, I need to ensure that my customers are happy. We are at the $100 million mark. We are at the fast growing pace with user adoption, and then we begin to ensure that they can earn money. So I think we just added yields as savings account now. So now they're very happy. They receive their paycheck rather than cashing their check, at the PLS store, right? So now they want to save money. I think over time they begin to enjoy the benefits of blockchain, without getting so much knowledge about blockchain. So when we are ready to educate them, they're pretty much open, and they have an understanding of what they've been using thus far.
That's great. So from a business perspective, you've got 22 million, you said, your Series A.
Yeah.
Clearly there's a business model here. How do you all make money? What's your revenue model? Are you just taking a small fee, smaller than what they pay in TradFi? Is it limited to that right now? And what are the plans for the future?
Yeah, we charge $1 per transfer. So even if you're sending $100, $10,000, or $100,000, our flat fee is $1 per transaction. And we do that because we want every single person sending money to have close to the gross amounts that was sent, and we're not so big on fees. We're very big on financial inclusion and a positive impact. So that's one. Two, because of our infrastructure, it ensures that the banks do not have to incur additional costs from corresponding banks. So we have the best FX rates in the market. About 8 to 12% better than Western Union and MoneyGram and the other partners in this space. So we try to about 40 bips up until 3% on the FX depending on the day. So that's how we also make money. And then we are integrated across the lenders in the US, over 1,200 lenders. We match make a lender and a customer who they would have never had the lenders pay us. So that's how we make money. So we're growing at a 9x year-over-year rates. Last year we did 11x, and we're get to do 9x today in revenues.
That's great. Thank you. So wrapping things up, for somebody watching at home today, or for somebody who's here who is not an immigrant, is there a way for them to get involved? And where can people find you online?
So you can download the app. We have the application, the mobile app, on both App Store and also Google Play Store. I think the biggest part for us is to ensure that you do not just derive value from the credit insights, but you also derive value with intelligence and data, right? So you can see the various African countries, you can see the various currencies, you can see the ability to actually move money in real time. And these are some of the things that we've actually seen. Our target was African immigrants initially, but now we've increasingly moved our time by a couple millions for Black Americans. Now looking to send money to Africa for charity, just so they can view the credit history. So I think that's what we've seen. That it's in as much as we're very niche minded, our product can be used by anyone. So you can download the app if you want to view your credit history, you want to get access to an American Express credit card. This is how you view the credit history, and from there you can start with sending money back home. So anyone can access our platform too.
Great. And lastly, your website and your Twitter for where people can find you.
We are currently at www.kredete.io. And we can find us on Instagram. We find us on Twitter at Kredete, Kredete. We're also on Telegram as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adiola. Glad you're here.
Yes.